Hi, this is Larry Hatch, and I believe this is our 7th episode of 10 New and Modern Words for Success and Better Communication. Our first term today is management by walking around. And yes, that is a business term, and it's abbreviated MBWA. And I saw this in the 80s. It's not new, but it's still a modern term, and it is being used a lot more. A lot of these business books and terms, it may take a couple decades for all that stuff to filter to a broader business culture, and it certainly is that. Let's just say traditional management is a bunch of guys, often white males, let's say, even women, who sit in an isolated office and study a bunch of numbers and reports. And that's how traditional autocratic management has been done. And they might not leave their office all day except for lunch and leaving. But management by walking around identified a problem that managers were not observant enough and were not clued in enough. They were frankly lazy. So it's a technique of overseeing an operation. It could be a factory or an office, a sales floor. Emphasizing informal, random, any time of day wandering around in observation, but not relying only on the study of numbers in an isolated office. If somebody walks around but doesn't keep their numbers in order, that's a problem too. But it often involves visiting employees on all shifts. Maybe not really spying, but having informal talks, just chatting. Say, hey, Fred, how you doing today? How's that thing going? Oh, we need some improvement on that. Let me get on that. Hey, Frida, how's it going? Oh, you look better? Yeah. Oh, you're all better now? Good. We want to take care of you. How is that new project going? Is it working out? Oh, it's good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me know if we can get you some more resources. I think we're going to bring on a new person that we can fit into that program. So I just want to let you know that's coming. Something like that. So it's you gotta nowadays you gotta do your metrics, your KPIs, your key performance indicators. You gotta do that. But somebody who walks around the facility, misses nothing, very observant. Somebody say, "Oh, the boss is on the floor spying." Well, no, that's the boss's job. So you don't resent that. You might want to be on your best behavior, certainly. And again, part of being a good MBWA manager is if your factory has 3 shifts, you don't just look around on your shift. You come in the middle of the night. I worked at a government agency one time that had a lot of security issues because they they were involved in the environment and animal testing, so that there were some threats out there. And their security manager literally walked around the facilities the middle of the night, first thing in the morning, all times of the day or night. He would even try to break in the facility, see if the alarms were working. He would count the response of the security guards to his breaking in. He would even send people in dressed up all in black, like they were kind of maliciously doing something. And he'd make sure that they were in the view of the cameras. He wanted to make sure his staff were watching those monitors for suspicious activity. He would do all kinds of things like that, kind of testing his people. And when you passed the test, he rewarded you very well. If you failed a few tests, you probably wouldn't be there too long. But anyway, he literally got up in the middle of the night or at the break of dawn just to walk around, make sure everything was good. And I felt he was a very good manager, even though I didn't directly report to him. The next term is beast mode. This is a little bit complicated because it is a registered trademark by American football player Marshawn Lynch, and he has some clothing line that is registered U.S. trademark for that. However, the term beast mode has been used more broadly than for products. That beast mode was his nickname. So you will see people use it not in the context of his merchandise line, although I think one should be careful since he does have a registered trademark on that. It's a state of mind to attack daily living, and often sports, athletic tasks, with a ferocious, beast-like, serious and firm resolve, being aggressive, positively animalistic, not crude and wild, but, with extreme power, control, skill, focus. It's like being a beast, just think of a tiger or a lion or a wolf, how they would attack things. In fact, it's an appropriate analogy because a lot of our teams are named after ferocious animals. Tigers, lions, wolves, ravens, bluebirds. No, never mind. They are named after some fierce creatures. Wolverines. And any kind of ferocious canine or feline. So beast mode sort of comes into that. Again, it's not being wild, but it's showing power, skill, control, and sometimes humans we're a little too polite. So beast mode is sort of a mode or way of thinking or acting. It generally starts with the mind, of course, state of mind first, to do that, to be that. The next term is eco-feminism, and I'm not sure I fully understand it. I did quite a bit of reading. It's the philosophy and study of female culture, feminism. You don't want to define a term with part of it. So, and it's that study in relation to the environment, ecology, namely such topics as male domination of nature and viewing nature as our property to exploit. That's not to say that women in business don't do the same thing that they've learned, but that's one of the parts of it. Males are a little more territorialistic in terms of nature and so on. Perhaps than some women are. It's also gender differences in terms of ecological thought and how feminism relates to the ecology. There's eco-feminist art, which reflects a women's perspectives on the subject. So it's kind of a growing thing, and I'm not really happy with this definition, but it sort of centers on the differences between how men and women look at the ecology and how maybe men have a toxic masculinity, if you will. That's another term we talked about. View of nature and perhaps exploiting it in a way that some women feel is inappropriate and dangerous. Plug and play. It's an adjective. I think it sort of started in the computer culture, and it was said of a device or an appliance, an accessory even, which works immediately after you make a physical or electrical connection, plugging. Again, you don't want to define something with part of it, it's word. Not requiring a complex configuration or a long setup. I knew originally when you plug in a new mouse to your computer, you'd have to install drivers, you'd have to configure it, or it wouldn't work. Now you just take a mouse, the Bluetooth grabs it, or the USB connector grabs it, and it's ready to go literally within seconds. That's plug and play. Maybe in a more extreme form, it would be like a video game. You just plug the video game into the wall, comes up, the games are there, you click on the icon, you're ready to go. You don't have to do any elaborate setup, you don't have to read a lot of instructions, it's just ready to go. That's kind of consumer friendly, but sometimes it's not always the best. Sometimes plug and play kind of defaults to certain settings or configurations that you might not want. So as you develop your use of the device or system, you may want to make some custom changes, but you don't have to do it right away. You can kind of immerse yourself in it, and it's ready to go in at least one state. The next term is Doppelbanger. I had not heard of this before, but I did hear of the concept. It's a person who has sex with a person because that person reminds them of someone else, usually an ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, past love. Maybe that girl in high school you didn't get to date, or maybe that jock in college that you really wanted but never really approached. Maybe it's a current crush that's not available. Maybe that person's married or attached. Maybe that person is a celebrity or a lookalike. So your drive to be with that person intimately is because of their similarity to someone else you know and like. Sometimes it gets kind of deep into psychology where they notice that a guy is dating a woman who looks exactly like his ex-wife, and he says, "Oh, I just have a type. I just like, long-haired brunettes with a certain body type." He dismisses it as that's my type. All of his friends and family are like, "Yeah, she's a splitting image of his ex-wife." That's a little weird. Sometimes people, this is even more creepy. They'll date somebody and they'll say, "She looks exactly like his mother," or "He looks exactly like her brother." That's weird. So that there's some deep motivations in there. I'll be honest with you. I didn't date a girl that I really liked and she liked me, mainly because she looked like one of my cousins, and I felt that was a little weird. So leave it at that. Culinary foamy. That's a form of culinary cooking, often part of molecular cooking, as they call it, or molecular, what a molecular chef would do. And it involves, physics and chemistry. You have to have some knowledge of that. And often they use an immersion blender or a foaming device, which you can buy. And it's basically a bubbly suspension or froth, foam, making that out of a sauce, a soup, a juice, or other flavorful liquid, often in some highly creative ways that are atypical, at least in appearance, for the ingredients. I'll give you a case in point. I had a grilled chicken breast one time, and there was this foam on top of it, and I was like, "What the heck?" Well, one of the foams was green. That was pesto sauce. One was red, the red foam. That was a tomato marinara type foam, and the other was white. That was more like a flavorful cream. So it was red, green, and white. The colors of the Italian flag. And these foams were on top of this chicken breast, and you just take a little bit of the foam and a little bit of the chicken, and you got pesto, you got tomato, you got cream sauce. If they had just put 3 kinds of sauce on there, you probably wouldn't have been as impressed. Now, the froth does have to be thickened and made dense, often with fillers like lecithin, can never say that right, or gum arabic or something like that. Otherwise, they just kind of go away like bubbles. So often there's a lot of curious physics and chemistry that the chef has to know about, and sometimes it'll make they'll make something that looks like something else. Like an ice cream float. You'll see, "Oh, here's a little ice cream float." Well, the foam on top of the ice cream float will be savory, and the liquid below will also be savory. So it looks like an ice cream float, but it's really a mousse or deconstructed salad or something. So there's all kinds of things with culinary foam. In fact, if you look it up, it's quite an art form, very complicated. And maybe some of you have some better examples than I do. Latinx I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that right. It's a non-gendered term to describe a Latino or Latina, or them collectively as a group without reference to gender, male or female. These are persons originating from Latin American nation or a culture. Um, they may be in the United States or Europe or somewhere or Asia, but they're from a Latin American background. And a Latina is a feminine form, a Hispanic or Latino woman. Now, Hispanic and Latino are different, so I better correct myself on that. Latino generally being male. So, if you want to identify a person of this background without reference to gender or collectively as a group, um, LITINX is one way to do that. The next term is A/B testing, and maybe that's self-explanatory. You test A versus B, but you know, companies and inventors and scientists have done that for, well, centuries, probably millennia would be fair to say. You compare one thing against another, but A/B testing specifically in our modern age is testing two versions of a product, and that's frequently a website or an advertisement. Generally a website, and they'll measure the popularity and values of each. Um, so like, let's say you're going to launch a store website. You launch two separate versions, and it can be under the same domain. So like the domain will split, and you can write code for this. Half of the people that go to the domain will get site A, half will get site B, and then you measure the analytics. You say, well, site A appeals more to the millennials and more to females. Site B appeals more to an older demographic and males, or sometimes it gets very complicated, and some companies are so sophisticated that they will actually direct you to a different website based on what they know about you. That's a little scary. But anyway, A/B testing is normally a prototyping of something. And advertisement marketing is very sophisticated in this. They'll have two versions of an ad. One is maybe designed for a ethnic or minority group. One is maybe for a broader audience. And sometimes I'll keep both, frankly. What often happens is they'll hybridize or merge the two, and they'll say, well, this aspect, this thing, this function or code, appeals more to the millennials. They relate to that, spent more time doing that. This other group like this thing better. So we'll combine the two, and the customer can choose which interaction they like best. So sometimes they do combine the A and the B. Other times they keep both, and you can certainly do that. It's a very sophisticated thing, especially when it gets to the advertising side of it. A management dashboard is like a dashboard of a car, like with gauges and dials, and it can literally have digital gauges and dials on it. It's a real-time display of business metrics such as KPI, which are the key performance indicators. That can be customer satisfaction, units produced at the factory today, revenue, sales, number of sales calls made, web traffic, and it'll have graphs and charts. I've known some companies that say, oh, we have a manager's dashboard. And you'll say, well, the data's not changing. Oh, no, we ran that report 3 days ago. Well, if you were driving your car and your gasoline and your speed were from 3 days ago, that would not be a real dashboard, would it? So a dashboard really has to be real time, as close to that as possible, live numbers. Not something from a report that looks like a dashboard. And if you get into business analytics or business intelligence, they can construct these with visual analytics very easily for you. And basically, this is the kind of thing, a manager gets into his office or turns on his laptop at home. First thing he does is pull up this dashboard. Oh, Revenue's down from yesterday. Why is that? It's lower than a normal Friday. Or boy, customer satisfaction's gone up. That ad must have worked. Or wow, our website traffic is just spiked. That ad really did work. Or they'll be like, why's our number of employees going down? I'll have to talk to somebody about that. Or just sometimes these are very complicated. Now normally they'd want to focus on maybe 10 or 12 important KPIs, the key things. But others of these you can change them. Just like a car, nowadays you can digitally pick what you want to see. And so a management dashboard could have dozens of different metrics with different panels that you can move in and out. Our next term is inner or in-head racism. I think we all know what it is. I think I'll confess I've been guilty of that, and I prayed to God to forgive me because I was being stupid. I think we've all done it if we really are honest with ourselves. It can be our reaction to something, to other groups of people. It's covert prejudice, but it's real. Against a race or group, can be an ethnic group, so it will be ethnicism, not racism, technically. Saying things in your head, but never verbalizing or writing them down for public airing. A lot of us know better than to say things or post things that are racist, and we wouldn't do that. But it's a different thing to think something racist or ethnicist prejudice in your head. It's a different thing. In fact, if you were raised a certain way, I wasn't. But if you're exposed to certain people, and I was, I've since parted ways with some of those people, all of those people actually, you get less of this in your head. So if somebody cuts you off, you say that blankety blankety blank person, whatever, and it may be that group of people have nothing to do with what happened. It was just that individual, but you expand it stereotypically out to that type of person, and it's wrong. It's a sin. It's a crime. I'll give you an example. I was in a grocery store the other day, and there was this family of color kind of blocking the aisle, and these white folks behind them were kind of politely saying, "Excuse me, can we pass?" And they just ignored them. And they didn't actually say anything, but you could tell they were thinking things. And they were like, these people aren't like us. And the weird thing was, I could hear from, they were, you could tell they were fomenting. And would they have thought the same things or reacted the same way if that person was more like them, that group was more like them, or their color? It turns out, I actually heard the people later. So they had this in-head racism, but they didn't say anything. But I saw them later in the store, and it was out-of-head racism, and they were saying, well, they don't have to respect others because they're black. They can get away with it. Black privilege. And I was like, what? And because I had heard these people talking, they were Pakistanis. They were not Africans of any traditional sort. They were Pakistanis. And I knew the difference between an Indian and a Pakistani accent. And the people were just like raging against them, but they didn't say anything. But their body language was like in-head racism. And then later when I heard them, it got out-of-head racism, and it was stupid. They were just a family. And their color of their skin had nothing to do with it, and it was just totally stupid. And but I think if we're all honest with ourselves, sometimes things come into our head that we don't want to say, we don't want to verbalize, we don't want to keep within us. Again, I pray to God to forgive me if I have a thought that's bad. Because like I say, when I was in school, I hang around some people that had these kind of attitudes, and I've purged them from my life, those attitudes and the people, and as a Christian, I don't support any kind of prejudice like that. So, but in-head or inter-racism is a very natural thing, and a lot of that goes on there, and and again, if you want to be honest in the comments, please do so. But remember, anything posted on the internet is forever. So, so this is an interesting topic, and I think we really need to address it, because a lot of this prejudice is people thinking things. And as Christ said, as you think in your heart, so are you. So even if you don't say or write something down, that's who you are, and you need to purge that stuff out of your system. Sorry this ended like a sermon, but anyway, please comment on any of these terms with examples, humor if you have it, better definitions. Please correct me if I'm off balance on any of these topics, and please comment. Thank you.